Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey and this is Strong Coffee, for this is an early morning panellogy. I still have to wake up, but I figured instead of running around aimlessly while waiting for the rest of the family to wake up, I can do a video, and why not a video about Corto Maltese, one of my favorite comics ever, or rather one that is strongly related to that comic here, because when I did a video about this one here some months ago, it was pointed out to me that this one here bears strong similarities to Milton Caniff's Terry and the Pirates. Especially sleepyreader gave me a quote from Hugo Pratt in which he stated how much he loves Milton Caniff's Terry and the Pirates. So I was strongly interested since then to get my greedy fingers on these volumes here, and it's not so easy. Volume 1 is pretty rare over here, and I was very glad when I could have bought, however, when I bought these books I was very happy for a bit under cover price, and yeah, I did a lot of reading since then. I still haven't read volume 6, well, the comic strips from 1945 to 1946, nor have I read volume 4 with the comic strips from 1941 to 42, nor have read volume 4, volume 5, the strips from 1943 to 1944. And this is the shtick of these tomes here, each reprinting newspaper strips from 2 years. The whole series started IDW's Library of American Comics line, because Dean Mullaney, the editor of the series, said that Terry and the Pirates is his favorite newspaper strip, so they started it with that one here. As to the build of these books here, they're all done very, very well. The paper sleeve, of course, and cardboards in different colors. And a bit of this embossing with foils. Each of these tones has a different color of the cardboard and different color of the foil, but else they are done in the same way. Containing, of course, all the comic strips. In the first volume, the colored Sunday strips did a separate storyline than the weekly strips, so they reprinted this separately. And a bit blurry, it's just for the first volume that the reproduction values of the strips are not so top-notch. They're all done pretty small. For my old eyes, they couldn't have done them smaller. So they're okay, I guess, but would have been nice if they could reproduce them a bit bigger. It's still a big book, mind you, but yeah. But the reproduction qualities improved pretty fast in the second volume and third volume. They're really okay, as you will see. And we gave a lot of background information, bonus information, the forewords and stuff, which is very neat, and especially since you have to imagine in which times these books here were done, or the strips were done, war times and stuff. So this is a lot of interesting reading. And this is a photo taken by Milton Caniff with his models for his tried and true hero, Pat Ryan, and one of his most interesting side characters, the Dragon Lady, and here you can see early versions of Terry Lee, the sidekick of Pat Ryan here. And yeah, this is Connie, and this is a bit problematic character because he's really a racial stereotype, but you have to see the comic in his historic setting, I guess. Or rather in the historic context. So, yeah, and here we see Pat Ryan again on the volume 3, surrounded by a lot of the female protagonists. And despite of them looking actually pretty alike when you see them side by side, story-wise and character-wise, they're pretty different, and each of them is really interesting. With one exception, this teenage April Kane, who is unfortunately a quite important character in Volume 3. I hope she's really written out of the story in the further volumes, because she aged not too well in terms of a character. Teenage Lolita, 13, 14-year-old characters who turns all the heads of the male protagonists. Yeah, it's a bit awkward to read that, especially her constantly thinking about how she, what kind of impression she makes on the man, and how what's her role as a female in this world here. It's a bit strange. But anyhow, all the other characters, female characters, are really interesting, and I could go on long time about Burma and the Dragon Lady, of course, and some others who are, especially for the time in which the story here took place, are really strong female characters. And this is Burma, this is Mrs. Caniff, of course, Milton Caniff's wife, and here we see her again, together with their dog Blaze. And we get a lot of glimpses into the life of Milton Caniff and his surroundings, and the way he does his drawings with the models here again for the Dragon Lady and Pat Ryan. Here we can see the panel, and this is a photo of some school colleague who went to war from Milton Caniff, who serves as a role model for one of the interesting side characters, of one of the many interesting side characters of Terry and the Pirates. And yeah, here, this is, we are now, 5 or 6 years into Terry and the Pirates, and boy, this his art really has improved, and since the good, but a good start, but now it's just brilliant how he works with black and white, and tells his story each day, just a few panels to get the story further. And of course, since these are newspaper strips, there is a lot of repetition going on, and he has to tell the reader what has happened the day or the days before, because he couldn't be sure that each one of them has read all the strips before and remembers them. So in the Sunday strips, the first row, for the most part, and sometimes a bit even more, is just retelling stuff that happened before, the days before. But for the most part on a bit different perspective. Sometimes another character retells what happened before. So it is rewarding in a way to read this, but maybe sometimes you can skip it. And I usually read it because the dialogues of Milton Caniff are really above average. And each one of the characters, even this bit annoying April Kane character here, have their own voice and their own slang, of course, and stuff like that. And yeah, you want to look at each panel, of course, because how masterfully and he uses the space of a panel, and sometimes even without words, daily to convey some action. And I really love and like it a lot. But yeah, of course, of all these repetitions, you can say that some of the stories could have been told in a very more concise manner, of course, when you do it the modern way in bigger chunks. I think 30% of the story here is, a bit, or at least a quarter is repetition and recap material. Look at this panel here, where Terry looks at us out of this frame. He peers into the scenery. That's just here. Milton, you can really watch in Terry and the Pirates how Milton Caniff had become this master that is always referenced from many comic creators as an important influence. And yeah, his females, his women are really not just posing around and waiting as a damsel in distress to be rescued. They rescue themselves, or are even really ruthless and ruthless characters. She is an exception. What was her name? Escapes me right now, but she leads some home for parentless children, orphans, and that is her main concern. And she's one of the few ones who can defy the strong magic that has Pat Ryan over women, at least for a time. And some totally different thing is the coloring in the Sunday strips here. This old-fashioned Band-Aid dot coloring. When you get real close, how wonderfully the colors are translated into these Band-Aid dots prints coloring. This is splendid. Wait, I can show you something. Here we have an exhibition with Milton Caniff's wife, Bunny Caniff. Come on, focus. And wait, this is the strip that is reprinted actually here. And there's one other thing that you can see here. The Sunday strips are done in two different fashions. For smaller newspapers, they reprinted the Sunday strips on a whole page. and the panels therefore are a bit show a bit more at each bottom. You can see a bit more drawing and art. And the bigger newspapers, they just reprinted the stuff here in this fashion. And each panel is a bit cut below on the bottom. Just look at this panel just quickly, and you can see how a tiny bit of it beneath here is left out here. So, a bit unfortunate that Dean Mullaney chose these strips here for reprint in the books here, because we lose a bit of art at the bottom, but sometimes Milton Caniff has to add something on the left or the right. I'm not too sure about that here. Yeah, to fit half of the page. So, yeah, it was a lot of extra work, I guess, for the Caniff team to do this. But one more, even more important thing is that what you can see here is the color guide from Milton Caniff for this page here. And how this translates to the softer coloring in the newspaper with the Band-Aid dots. Yeah, but I wanted to do for a long time a video about this old-fashioned newspaper coloring and how it is done. So this is something for a future video, like I always say, and sometimes I'll do it really. So, another strong point, aside of the very interesting female characters, yeah, Connie here is one of the friends of Pat Ryan, as you can see here, but he's really a racial stereotype that can rub you the wrong way when you forget in which time this comic here was published, because, yeah, as a German, I can really not be judgmental in any kind of form, of course. Yeah, as another thing that really is interesting here in these comics are the villains, and especially, yeah, this Klang guy here. He's really a bizarre guy. And speaking of bizarre, this other guy here who likes to appear in this fashion. This is really comic fun, and that's Caniff really relishes in these. When he has the opportunity to show us some technical device that looks goofy or modern or adds to the background, he really uses it. And in the bonus section there are some texts that from witnesses. Witnesses? Yeah. Who claim how Milton Caniff run around with a sketchbook in his hand and to draw a new jeep in which he saw some soldiers to draw them and to use this as for his comics. Yeah, it's really hard or even impossible to give you really a feel for the enjoyment that you can get in reading these comics here. Of course, you have to take your time, because there's no use in flipping through these comics like I do sometimes, to be honest with you, when I read Golden Age comics. then it's maybe the way to go to read just some speech bubbles and to get the glimpse, a feel for the story and skip some stuff. But the dialogues in Terry and the Pirates are really a joy to read, and even though there are a lot of repetitions, just bear in mind what some fan of Terry and the Pirates would have said back in the day to some gorgeous collection like this one here. Yeah, he would say that this is unbelievable, priceless, awesome, and I just can second that opinion from today's point of perspective. So, last sip of coffee. This is really, it's now cold. But I still don't hear anything from my family. They are still sleeping. Yeah, enough time to upload the stuff here. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.